Kamaru Usman takes on Joaquin Buckley this weekend at UFC Atlanta, and here are 10 reasons why Buckley will come out the winner. Reason number one, it's simply the age gap, alright? Whenever a fighter is younger than their opponent by 7 years or more, they win 72% of the time. I did the numbers, I crunched the stats, you can check Bet MMA and look up age gap differences. 72% of the time, the younger fighter wins. Now, there are some recent examples where the older fighter won and where the older fighter was the favorite. For example, Usman was 8 years older than Brenson Ribeiro in their UFC 316 matchup and won by round 1 KO. So there are some outliers. There are some scenarios where the older fighter does come out on top, but when the younger fighter is entering his prime and they're winning at a 72% of the time, I think this is a good reason to back Buckley here. Reason number two, Kamaru Usman, his entire career, he's been known to be a great wrestler, a great grappler, and that helps him with his striking as well. But now, if he has no knees, he has no cartilage in his knees whatsoever, the takedowns are not going to be as effective, the grappling won't work as well. So if he's just a one-trick pony now with just a simple jab, just a simple strike, and no wrestling to fall back on, this is not the same Kamaru Usman we're used to seeing where he's just ragdolling opponents. He's not going to be able to do that against Joaquin Buckley with no cartilage in his knees. Reason number three, I see a lot of people picking Kamaru Usman simply because he's the former champ, he has the championship experience, and Joaquin Buckley, this is just too big of a step up in competition. But if you look at his recent resume, Joaquin Buckley definitely deserves to be in this spot. I mean, he's coming off a TKO victory against Colby Covington, which was a doctor stoppage, but he was definitively beating Colby in that matchup. He's also coming off a KO victory against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and no one really knocks out Wonderboy Thompson. Joaquin Buckley went out there and did it in round 3 nonetheless. He also controlled Nursultan Ruziboyev and won a clean decision against him, and Ruziboyev since then, I believe, is on a 2-fight winning streak. He also ground and pound TKO'd Vicente Luque in a fight where he was actually the underdog. People did not expect Buckley to just go out there and dominate like he did, and he did. And since then, he's just on a great streak, and he definitely deserves to be in the spot. So this is not a huge step up for Buckley. So to say that Usman is the best guy that Buckley has fought recently, I would say yes, but I would also say Buckley deserves to be here. Reason number 4, Kamaru Usman is on a 3-fight losing streak, which it's not the worst thing, but he has not fought at welterweight in over 2 years. His last fight was over a year and a half ago against Hamzat, and that was at middleweight on a week's notice. The fight before that, he lost a majority decision to Leon Edwards, and that was at welterweight. That was March 2023, over 2 years ago. This guy has not cut down to welterweight in over 2 years. He's 38 years old. He has no knees. There's a lot of factors that would make you not want to take Usman in this spot. Reason number 5, I simply think Joaquin Buckley has elevated his game. If you look over his recent resume, he used to be known as like a one-shot KO guy or a takedown guy, but recently he's upping the volume on strikes. He's engaging more often than not, which I love to see in terms of winning a decision potentially against Kamaru Usman. I see a lot of people saying Buckley is KO or bust in this matchup, but honestly, he got 75 significant strikes against Colby in 3 rounds in a 5-round fight. He was well on his way to getting over 100 significant strikes in that matchup. Against Nursultan Ruziboyev, 86 significant strikes in 3 rounds. Against Vicente Luque, 55 significant strikes in 1.5 rounds. And against Alex Morono, nearly got 70 strikes in 3 rounds. So Buckley has been improving his game. He's no longer just a one-shot KO guy. He's no longer just a wrestler takedown guy. He's mixing up the martial arts pretty effectively at this point in his career, entering his fighting prime. I think this is when you should back Joaquin Buckley. Reason number 6, Kamaru Usman simply is just not locked in to training MMA. He has the Pound for Pound podcast, and he has all the money he possibly needs. Multiple championship fights, multiple main events, multiple pay-per-views where he got a lot of pay-per-view points, a lot of money. So at this point, he's not really that hungry, I don't think. He's getting one last fight against Joaquin Buckley, cashing a nice check as the main event of a fight night. So, I mean, Usman, I appreciate that you're taking this fight and trying to elevate a lower fighter, maybe trying to stamp your name back in the welterweight division, but I simply just think Usman is too scatterbrained at the moment. Usman has way too many things going on besides fighting for him to actually lock in and care about this fight. Meanwhile, Buckley, all he has is fighting. All he's got is this. So Buckley needs to win this more than Kamaru Usman does. Usman already has the resume. Usman already has the legacy. Buckley, this is his time to show that he belongs with the big dogs. And he's getting Usman at the perfect time, in my opinion. Reason number 7. Now, Joaquin Buckley used to be a middleweight. In the UFC, he went 5-4 at the middleweight division and nearly was cut. He was a win-loss fighter. His fights were somewhat entertaining, but he just always managed to just lose to competition he shouldn't be losing to. Like, he had a round 1 KO loss to Alessi DiCirico, who I don't believe is even signed to the UFC anymore. He has a KO loss to Kevin Holland at middleweight, which, I mean, middleweight Kevin Holland is not that good. But guess what? Welterweight Joaquin Buckley, similar to welterweight Kevin Holland, is a completely different animal. Welterweight Buckley is 6-0 in the UFC, 6-fight winning streak in the UFC at the welterweight level, and he's fought multiple ranked guys, beaten more than 3 ranked guys at the current moment at the welterweight division. So I think welterweight Buckley is a different Buckley than middleweight Buckley, and I think that's going to show itself in the cage this weekend. Reason number 8, I kind of alluded to this earlier in the video, but Usman at this point, if he has no knees, he's not going to be able to wrestle effectively. He's not going to be able to grapple effectively. And at that point, what does Usman have? He just has a good jab. He has a very good jab. Can't take that away from him. But with age comes, you're going to be slower as you age. So if you're going to be slower and the only weapon you really have is a good jab, the jab is going to be slower. Buckley, I think, will avoid the jab pretty well, and Buckley's going to be the way more athletic guy in this cage. So if Usman, all he's got at this age is a jab, I'm not really sure how he wins this fight other than like the most boring 5-round fight you've ever seen. I could see a path to victory for Usman by points fighting, by like keeping it at range with that jab. But as the rounds progress, I think that Buckley's going to figure out the jab, and he might find the mark on Usman. Reason number 9, a lot of people haven't been putting the dots together, but Joaquin Buckley, he is facing Kamaru Usman, who is a former world champion. But Joaquin Buckley, on his resume, already has a world champion win against Impa Kasanganay. Impa Kasanganay got cut from the UFC shortly after getting knocked out by Buckley, and then went on to win the world championship at PFL. So Joaquin Buckley already has kind of championship fight experience against Impa Kasanganay, sent him to the Shadow Realm, highlight KO of the year in 2020, I believe. And I mean, if people are saying Buckley's resume isn't that good, well, he has a world champion on it, and I think this weekend he's going to have 2 world champions on it. Reason number 10, this is the strongest reason of the entire video, and I simply think Joaquin Buckley has plot armor. All right, at this point in Buckley's career, 6-fight winning streak at welterweight, Kamaru Usman is on his way out, 1 fight away from retirement if he were to lose this fight, and there are just infinite matchups to make between Buckley and the up-and-coming risers of the welterweight division. I mean, Buck versus Cook, do I even have to promote that? Joaquin Buckley versus Ian Gary would be a banger. Joaquin Buckley versus Shavkat would be very interesting. Joaquin Buckley versus Sean Brady would be very interesting. And, I mean, why not Michael Morales, who's only 1 rank below Buckley? Buckley versus Michael Morales in the future would be crazy as well. And then also Buckley versus the champ, JDM. I think Buckley makes a great matchup for any of these guys, and I simply think he's going to have plot armor against Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman, if he were to win, sure, he can fight any of these guys you see on the screen, but he's 38 years old at the welterweight division. Buckley is 31, entering his fighting prime. I just think he has plot armor. I think the UFC scriptwriters know that this matchup needs to be won by Joaquin Buckley in order to make Buckley versus Cuckley. That's just the way it is. Sometimes the script is written. Buckley opens as a plus 150 underdog, but is now minus 300. You know, the UFC script writers sent out the scripts to the big betting dogs, and the betting guys said, oh my God, Buckley cannot lose this one. Let's slam him for all our net worths.